Welcome one and all to the second match of this weekend Sprinters semifinals. I'm everyone's favorite commentator, sometimes caster, although not for this one, not Gollum, and in the casting booth we have FireHorse behind the driver's seat for today's match. This is going to be one heck of a match today, Southern Cross versus Supernova. This, of course, also has the added excitement of whichever team is going to lose here will be eliminated from the tournament fully. We are in the losers bracket at this moment in time. Both of these teams are well aware of this fact. I expect a good match today. That being said, during the mid-season, these two teams have played each other in the past, as all teams, for the most part, in their respective tiers have played each other. For having enough time to play during this season, and Supernova did take their last match, although that was a while ago. That was weeks ago. Southern Cross has had much time to get some work in here, and depending on the map pool for today, has a decent shot at winning this one, even though Supernova traditionally might be given some advantage in this match. Launchpad, Waterway, Stadium, that was the... it seems like these maps have been kind of the top pick for most teams here. A pretty standard matchup here, as Launchpad as a payload map is fairly balanced overall as far as the balance of power goes for defense versus offense throughout the map. It's generally expected that two pretty even teams are going to make it through the checkpoint, unlike with Canyon, for example, where checkpoint is all the way at that 50% mark. Often two even teams are going to end up holding each other long before that. We can expect, if both these teams are playing solid and coordinated and together, crossing those sight lanes, locking down those long pathways you need to traverse through in order to make it to the cart as either color, those teams which are better coordinated are going to end up winning the day here. It's not just a mad dash for the objective, it is focus and determination. And really, it's very important to stay together. That is something that Supernova especially has surprised me a lot about this season as I've been watching them play and even played against them in a match earlier in the season. They've really picked things up compared to the previous season. They've got some killer players on this team. They've got Push, Bill Lumberg, and Mando, too old for this. Really some fantastic players in here. They've got Raptor Ryan and Q Druid and Boy Doy out in the wings as well. In the meanwhile, on the red team, Southern Cross, very experienced team. They've used their experience to their advantage in order to take the victory on maps, especially considering we're playing Launchpad and Waterway. Personally, I think those are two of their best maps, their best payload, their best domination. Assuming Supernova chose the second choice of these two maps, probably choosing the Launchpad, they must be very confident in their game there, as Southern Cross seems to have things relatively figured out as far as playstyle and coordination goes for those two maps. We can expect Rapscallion to be a absolute Rapscallion on the rockets in the background for Red Team. They are very competent and very consistent with those. That is something that is very important for a Rocketeer. Axion, Weller, Crash Zone, definitely going to be a little bit more in your face. I'm looking forward to seeing this play out. Both these teams currently in the midst of their preparatory conversations before the match, making sure everyone's gear is in check for the big game today. Take it or leave it. This is one of these teams' last matches for the season. The winner of this team, of course, no spoilers, is going to go against the loser between Other and Life, the other match that happened this weekend. Go ahead and take a look at that match after this one. Of course, you want to go ahead and stay for the raw excitement that is a FireHorse cast and a Golem commentary, of course. Let's get a little bit of talking in the chat. Who do you think is going to be taking this first map, this Launchpad? Personally, depending on how the opener goes for Supernova, I think if Southern Cross is able to hold this house in the beginning area, then that is going to be a great sign for their later zones as the cart tries to make its way down the hill. But if Supernova is able to get a quick clear on the house, I'm sure they're going to be able to roll that advantage into a victory, as Supernova, in my opinion, has been pretty good about keeping momentum in their favor once they take it. Southern Cross is going to have their work cut out for them if they ever get into a position where they need to recover. Also seems both teams have all 5 of their players. Raptor Ryan playing with the other caster drone at the moment as well. It's fun to see. One of my favorite features of the Gela Arthur casting materials, being able to throw the drone around like that. And that's something that I just really enjoy about VR in general, is the ability to interact and be so expressive even in the non-verbal ways. Just in ways that you can somewhat in other video games through crouching, looking around and such, but just VR is just so different, so much more immersive. Even I would think as an audience member, and even not being zipped into the game itself, you can still see a lot about different people, and even start to understand different players' playstyles just based on the way that they move their body, even if their name isn't associated with the player. That's something that shows up, I think, a lot in different VR games, and this one is no different. One thing I'm curious to see is, I believe for Supernova, Push is one of their Rocketeers. I could be wrong about that, though. I'm interested to see when we swap to red team who over on the Supernova side is going to be maining those rockets, as having a consistent Rocketeer is very significant for the payload, as well as the fact that we are playing on Sydney. No, we're playing on a US server for this, and probably playing on Sydney for the waterway? Oh no, we are playing Sydney here. I got tricked by the ping difference. So that's definitely going to give a little bit of an advantage to Southern Cross here for this map. It is going to make the waterway following it, I assume on a US-based server, a little bit more difficult to contend with. Often, I think that having a ping in your favor for the payload is a little bit more important. Of course, I'm a little bit biased, as I tend to prefer the payload to the domination anyways, in terms of playing it at least. But it's interesting to see that Southern Cross have chosen this map for the start here. I would have expected them to choose Waterway. Supernova, meanwhile, choosing Waterway for themselves. And we are going to jump right in to the first map of the day. Southern Cross opening on red. Rembrandt going back for double shocks in that triangle dash, it would seem. Supernova on blue, starting with a triple stack on the card. I'd be surprised if that's going to last, but who knows? Maybe they're trying to trick Southern Cross a little bit with their opener. Weller also grabbing double shocks. Double shocks is going to be a solid hold for Southern Cross if they can get those players in position in time with enough dashes. Rapscallion with the rockets gets one killed there and is now in the bottom house. I expect them to be pushed soon. Rapscallion follows up with those rockets, is dashing all over the place like an absolute madman, gets another kill on the cart, is being chased at the moment, but he has teammates following them up. Now Rapscallion is waiting for that health before he takes a hit on the cart, relying on the rest of his teammates to follow up, waits a little bit too long. Bill gets a good kill there, is now pushing on the objective, and Supernova, knowing that Southern Cross is going to be popping out here sometime soon, is just choosing to stay focused on the objective. Good double kill by Rembrandt might give enough time for more of his teammates to follow up before Supernova can get consistent movement on this cart, which is exactly what starts to happen. Double stack on the cart by Supernova. I would say this is almost a little bit too much objective focus on the outset here. It seems like Supernova is starting to recover, but Southern Cross still has players streaming in to their house and into their back lines, is causing Supernova to have to look every which way in order to defend. Rapscallion getting some good peeks with the rockets, does get taken out there, and now Supernova has almost complete control of the space as Southern Cross slowly but surely tries to stream players forward in order to slow this roll. They now give up on that and are going for a group up. We can see that on the mini-map. They are pushing all together. That is exactly what you want to be doing as red, even this early on. You want to be paying attention to when flooding in one at a time is not working and when you just need to take a moment before jumping right in all at once with dashes charged, overwhelm the enemy, which is what Southern Cross is going for here. Supernova has gotten some pretty good movement towards the start of this hill, but they are a little bit behind pace if they get stopped anymore, which Weller is going to go ahead and start helping with. Some pretty aggressive movement by Southern Cross, it would seem, is trying to prevent Supernova from pushing forward to those Rapscallion rockets. Very nice angles and curves by Rapscallion there, way in the back line. Southern Cross is doing a fantastic job of giving Rapscallion room to cook here. And cooking he is melting anybody who takes a moment to push onto the cart. Rapscallion does get taken out because they were out of position, and now the cart is continuing to move forward a little bit behind pace. 3 minutes and 30 seconds at the bottom of the hill. But Raptor Ryan trying to make space for the rest of his teammates. Cart does get hit by Rapscallion, and Raptor Ryan chooses to steal those far rockets so that Rapscallion cannot set up nearby it with double rockets. The rest of his teammates are going to have to push forward and make space, which is exactly what they're doing. The cart is continuing to move forward. I'm not sure if Weller is quite aware of this yet. They're going to have to try and kill 3 people all on their own with some assistance by the rockets. Weller is perfectly capable of that, however. is now in the backline getting kill after kill after kill, forcing Supernova to slow their roll a little bit as Axion, it would seem, tried to follow up on that disruption. I'm liking this constant disruption by Southern Cross. As soon as they have a little bit of an advantage, they push it even further, trying to keep Supernova on an uneven footing, preventing them from grouping up as much as possible, and of course making space for those consistent rockets. And it seems there might even be a second Rocketeer starting to try and set up for Southern Cross. Weller does get killed by Push, who is slowly but surely trying to clear the cart and then make their way to Rockets, although it might be a little bit too little too late as they spent too much time grabbing the health. Southern Cross is starting to try and recover here. Push is still alive, but gets taken out by Rockets as soon as they push into the cart. Raptor Ryan also taken out by Rembrandt. And now Supernova has to reset once again. They had a decent chance at turning that push forward into cart movement, but they were just not quite able to follow up on disrupting the heavy Rocketeer that's set up. Good kill by Raptor Ryan there with the headshot on one pistol. Is now getting movement on the cart as I think Rapscallion has been forced to retreat. Gets taken out from a sneaky position. Mando tries to get some movement on the cart, but Rapscallion ready to pop out with Crash Zone on the cart. This cart stacking is very important that Southern Cross stay consistent with this, which I am absolutely positive they are going to do. Any amount of micro movement at this point in the map by Supernova could eventually turn into a checkpoint if they're not careful, but at this rate, things are really not looking good for Supernova. They are streaming in one at a time just a little bit too much. It's at a point where it almost seems like it'll work, but Southern Cross seems to win the team fights just enough to matter and just enough to prevent any amount of serious movement on the cart, sometimes even any movement on the cart. The Rockets have been alive for such a ridiculously long time. Supernova has just not been able to even remotely approach them. We can see players like Bill are trying to swap things up. They have a shield. They're setting up on the cart so that they only have to worry about the Rocketeer ideally, but they still get taken out because there's too many Southern Cross set up around this objective. We are reaching the 45-second mark, and Rembrandt is moving through the shield, disrupting into Supernova's face. And multiple Southern Cross players are still set up around that cart. Push trying to swap things up with rockets of their own, trying to clear around corners where they can. Some amount of movement on the cart is starting here, but there's just too many Southern Cross players left alive, and as long as Rapscallion is left to do their work with those rockets, Supernova has no chance at this point. We are at 20 seconds left. The cart is still dying. Rapscallion only dying 5 or so times. We reach the final 10 seconds here. There's a couple Supernova around the cart. This last push might actually be able to turn into something if they can flank those rockets and force them out of position, but they stream through the shield room too much, and now it's too little too late. Southern Cross gets a pre-checkpoint hold. That is huge. We can really see Southern Cross's experience on this map winning out for them. They were very focused on the objective at the right times. They knew when to change things around, switch things up, and move forward, be aggressive, and they never seemed to overcommit to anything. They never seemed to lose focus either. That's something that really hurt Supernova rather there. They seemed to lose focus on what they were doing and how they were supposed to play together in a way that Southern Cross just never felt overwhelmed. Now Southern Cross has a very good chance of making it to this percentage mark. And keep in mind, they don't have to make it a super far distance here like you would in the mid-season. They just have to make it to the same mark that Supernova did in less time and win. All they have to do is win, and they make it forward in this tournament. This is for keeps. And so far this cart has been basically undisturbed as Southern Cross is absolutely dominating the space, and Raptor Ryan, for example, able to push the cart, gets one kill and gets taken out. Playing just a little bit too tentative, I think, is Supernova. After how much Southern Cross was dominating the space earlier, now playing just a little bit too passively in this first zone is giving Southern Cross room to take even more space and then make it even harder for Supernova to make it to the cart. They have only been single stacking through this area, but despite the lack of double stacking for extra speed, the cart movement has been so consistent and so unabated that Southern Cross is at the top of the hill with 5 minutes left, a full minute to make it down the hill at standard time, which is about 4 minutes typically. for two even teams. I'm thinking at this rate, though, if Supernova doesn't change things up with their rocketeering especially, Southern Cross is going to make it at the bottom of the hill with much more time than that. Raptor Ryan going for a little bit of disruption with some shield shotgun here. I actually really enjoy seeing this loadout as long as Raptor Ryan is going to use it correctly. And Crash Zone with a shield of her own is now on the cart. All she has to worry about is those rockets with the rest of her teammates making tons of space. Push! Really good rockets there. Unfortunately taken out by Rapscallion's rockets of their own. And now Southern Cross is at the bottom of the hill with 4 minutes and 19 seconds left. Cart does get stopped briefly. However, I say briefly because Southern Cross players are still alive in the space. Good double kill by Raptor Ryan, however. It looks like Raptor and Push are going to be your main two Rocketeers for now. However long that's going to be, we're still only just now hitting the 4-minute mark. But this cart is well through the bottom of the hill and starting to turn that corner. Raptor Ryan getting some movement in, some cart wiping in. It seems like they were nearly impossible to kill. Bueller eventually locks that in, but Push is set up. That's the advantage of having two Rocketeers able to play in two different ways. Is Southern Cross, the enemy team, has that much more effort they need to put in to take those players out. They need to take out two different players just to afford consistent cart movement, and so far Supernova has done a pretty decent job, all things considered, of holding this cart here. I also like the shield on cart. However, Axion with a good flank takes out one player, gets taken out themselves, and the rest of Southern Cross is flooding in. Raptor Ryan, though, with the staples. Staples basically unheard of this season. That is awesome to see. I'm really curious how this is going to play out, as classically, historically, for this game, staples have been very strong. They are just underutilized for the most part as players choose to focus on other things, but Raptor Ryan making it work, hopping on the objective, getting the last few kills needed. Rapscallion is flanking behind Supernova, making tons of space, miles of space, kilometers of space for those in the EU for his teammates, now backing up to grab some health. Does not secure the kill on Bill, but does get the health, gets another kill on Mando, and now Supernova is desperately streaming in to stop this cart. A triple stack by Southern Cross. A little bit of disruption there. Mando gets one kill, but the cart is still moving forward. Supernova trying their darndest to stop this objective. 2 minutes and 20 seconds left, and hardly a percentage, much less than a percentage left to go. Rapscallion killing the shield that was on cart. Rembrandt following up with the shocks. Axion gets the win for Southern Cross. 2 minutes left on the clock. Southern Cross wins the first map. That was on the Sydney server, but let's not discount just how much Southern Cross won that first map. I am seriously worried for Supernova's chances as we move into map 2, Waterway. That being said, we take a look at the scoreboards here. Rembrandt, top scoring for their team, 40 kills, 24 deaths, 4,000 score. Raptor Ryan top scoring for their team, 33 kills, 3,700 score. Well done. That was an exciting first map. Thank you very much, Sir Void. Well said. Now, we're going for a server switch towards the Supernova advantage of ping here for map 2, Waterway. And here we go. We are in the second lobby now. Both teams bringing in 5 players. It looks like Supernova is going for... Oh, no, that's Bot Nelson. Never mind. I was going to say a little bit of a roster swap for this second map, which seems to be relatively common for a lot of teams. No, we are just waiting for that 5th player. Southern Cross having all 5 of their players in here now. 240 ping for the Aussies here. Depending on which side of the country you're on, especially, this is going to be a difficult waterway, to say the least. Considering how much Southern Cross dominated in that first map, all they need is a 1-point win here. If Southern Cross wins this waterway, if it looks like they start to get the advantage here, it's lights out for Supernova.
As we take a look at the schedule for upcoming matches, we can see that there are 2 Dasher tier matches coming up. It should be fantastic. UNSC versus Envy and Phoenix versus Dark. This is the last of the Sprinter tier matches. 2 matches played earlier. Be sure to check those out. They're surely going to be exciting matches.
It's difficult to tell. It's a cat. Here, I'll be just a moment. And I am back. The cat has been suitably dealt with. It looks like Too Old for This has entered the lobby, and Supernova has their 5 players. Southern Cross also with their 5 players in the lobby. Their roster unchanged for today. It looks like Supernova is ready to start this second map here. Southern Cross just finishing up their discussions. They may have dominated that payload quite significantly, but I still give Supernova the advantage here. They are playing from a losing position. They are, I'm sure, in the mindset of having to take this map. This is do or die. And they have the ping significantly in their advantage, which is very important for a domination map as fast as Waterway especially. Supernova also fairly good at the flooding forward, which I think will actually benefit them a little bit more on the Waterway than it did on the payload. The coordination of the Southern Cross, of course, will be important, and Southern Cross is no slouches when it comes to Waterway map. It is their preferred domination map after all, but even still, the way Supernova streams forward and some of their their dashers, their players are very efficient and quick dashers, is going to be difficult for Southern Cross to deal with defensively. They're really going to need to pull Supernova's attention in multiple directions if they want to have a chance at preventing a double control point to decide the winner. And of course, I think it's almost a given at this point as a caster, as a player, that you want to see the control point. You want to see the game get to down to the wire like this. And I give a very decent chance for Supernova bringing it to that point. But what do the rest of you think? Go ahead and leave a comment on the video. Who do you think is going to be taking this next map, Southern Cross or Supernova? The bot has finally been allowed to leave the clutches of that Supernova player. A little bit cockeyed, but that's okay. There we go. And now both these teams have readied up. The map has been selected, and we can go ahead and get this second map started. Southern Cross versus Supernova on Waterway.
Match starts.
I say this every time, and I'll say it once again. The opener on the domination map, I think, is more important, honestly, than the opener on any payload, because you can score, get a point for your team so quickly, especially on Waterway, more than any other map. You can get such a quick score on Waterway if your pathing and coordination is effectively practiced and has a little bit of luck associated with it as well. So far, Supernova getting triple control, 3 different buttons, Southern Cross getting some counters, but the way things are going in this first 40 seconds is already not a great sign for Southern Cross. Supernova has had control of that B button pretty consistently for a while. We can see Rapscallion trying to hop into Supernova's base, but no dash to speak of for them to grab, and the rest of the Southern Cross players just about getting wiped out. Raptor Ryan, some pretty quick dashing there, but does run out of bullets a little bit too late. Gets taken out as a result. Weller trying to make a play for the B in the bottom left screen. Misses the button, doesn't get a dash from it, and too many Supernova players set up around that B button. Push, not able to secure the bag on Southern Cross's base and get a score, but Supernova has been able to get into Southern Cross's base pretty consistently. They get wiped out, it seems, by these Southern Cross players that are forced on the defensive, but it's already a bad sign if you're forced to play defensive on a map like Waterway. Really, the goal is to be as aggressive as possible, to be able to push forward as much as possible, and Southern Cross starting to get a countdown and actually turn things around from how I've been describing it, trying to pull some kind of advantage in their favor. Supernova still controlling their own base and the B button, making it difficult for Southern Cross to push out, but when Southern Cross pushes out, they do so in force. Lot of contesting on this B button. Weller gets taken out on the mid B by Push, who is now going to make a play towards Southern Cross's button, trying to steal as many resources as possible, dashing very quickly as well up to that button, pulls Southern Cross's attention away, gets a kill as well. Their goal was not to score there, as they don't even have control of B anymore. It is to pull the attention of those Southern Cross players and steal those resources as much as possible. And they are doing a fantastic job of that until they get taken out. Mando now following up. But Southern Cross's control of Supernova's base, they get control of their own as well, but they lose B. It looks like Supernova is only having one button at a time. Bill now trying to get something done in Southern Cross's base, but there's too many players left alive on the defensive. Supernova, it seems like, is dropping the ball just a little bit compared to how they were at the very beginning of this map. They are able to get into Southern Cross's base, they're able to get control of B, but they're just not quite able to follow up on 2 of those things together at once and therefore get a point. Southern Cross has been too good about playing on the defensive and clearing their base before pushing forward for the most part, except for when Push is in there, getting kill after kill, trying to slow up the Southern Cross players and pull that attention away. Gets a hit on the button, a little bit of a countdown, not going to turn into a point because there's too many Southern Cross players left alive, and Push gets taken out as well. Now it's Mando on the button, a little bit of a countdown for Supernova. Southern Cross counters on B. And now it doesn't matter how long Mando is in there, except for if Supernova gets a countdown as well. Southern Cross barely countering there. Bill just needs a couple more kills, goes to hold the button instead, and it gets countered. Rembrandt somehow sneaking their hand in there, tries to get a kill on Push, who is now playing around the button, trying to pull Southern Cross's focus away, but I think it's too little, too late. Supernova barely missing their first point there. Still a good sign for them, considering how early on in the match it is of being able to score the first point and get the advantage in their favor. They've been consistently having players in Southern Cross's base, but Southern Cross is getting a countdown right now. Rapscallion goes to hold the button. Hopefully, Southern Cross was holding their own button. They were! Too old for this, not able to take out Rapscallion. Southern Cross turns things around majorly compared to the series of close countdowns and counters that were in their own base, actually scoring the first point before the 5-minute mark. Despite the server disadvantage, they are on a roll right now, and they are going to ride that roll into this second part of the match. Mando popping up seemingly out of nowhere, gets a kill, gets a second one as well, clearing that B button. It seems like Supernova now playing a little bit too precociously, and Southern Cross really putting on the aggression. It seems like for the most part they just needed to adapt to the ping difference in how they were shooting. Supernova, meanwhile, struggling just a little bit in hitting these shots consistently and playing together. Good kill on Axion there. Bill gets a hit on B, a countdown for Supernova as well. Raptor Ryan distracts for a little bit, but in getting taken out by Dweller, Southern Cross gets the counter and is still in this. Southern Cross hits that B button as well, is getting a countdown of their own, but Rembrandt, not holding that button, is having to dash every which way just to survive, is not going to get a countdown and a point unless more players follow up. Mando gets the kill but doesn't hit the button. Southern Cross has scored a second point. I just need to stop doubting these guys. Every time Southern Cross has gotten a countdown, except for maybe once or twice, that's turned into a point. Supernova is getting countdown after countdown that turns into nothing. They need to change something about the way they are playing. Supernova gets control of their own point, and B, once again, Southern Cross not having their own base, but we've been here before. This has happened the past 2 rounds, where Southern Cross has then gotten a point. Supernova is getting a countdown. Raptor Ryan changing things up with a rocket, gets 3 kills, and gets the first point for Supernova. What a play! That was out of nowhere. Raptor Ryan doing something that nobody on Southern Cross could have expected. Double rockets on a waterway? That's unheard of. And that out-of-nowhere play is going to put Supernova back in a position to recover. With still 18 minutes and 30 seconds left in the match, there's plenty of time for Southern Cross to try and follow up. Normally, you would think that playing for Rockets on this map is going to be near useless, considering how much of the map is completely open and exposed to pistol players, but if you're able to get into the enemy base, there's so many positions where you can curve rockets effectively around corners and take out players in ways they're not expecting. It's not a great default tool, but it's a fantastic surprise tool, and it looks like Raptor Ryan showed us why. Another countdown for Supernova, not turning into a point. However, Rapscallion now setting up in the sniper here, grabs a dash, pushes forward, is in the mid B, doesn't notice Raptor Ryan with the rockets once again, dominating that lower B, trying to create space for their teammates. Are they going to get this bottom dash here? They get a kill, but they don't get the dash. That's very important as they had those heavy weapons. Looks like Mando in the bottom left screen is trying to make some space for Bill to get a countdown, but Bill getting taken out means Mando is all alone. A countdown for Supernova. Will this turn into a point? No! Southern Cross counters in Supernova's base of all places. Mando still stealing resources, still trying to take out the Southern Cross players, but Crashzone gets a hit on the button, plays close to it, and leaves time for Axion to get the kill. That's good teamwork follow-up. Considering the ping difference, that was actually a good bait and switch, I think, assuming that was on purpose. Worst case, it was an accidental bait and switch. So now we're at the point where Raptor Ryan is still pretty effective with these rockets, but I think as Southern Cross learns to expect Raptor Ryan to use these rockets more and more, they're going to start to adapt their positioning and especially their callouts for this one player more. And I think we're going to see a little bit about how these rockets are mostly a good surprise tool. If Southern Cross knows to expect a Rocketeer getting into their base, you can adjust the way that you play and then start to get countdowns for your team. Raptor Ryan starting to get a countdown for Supernova, but they're playing in a not very defensible position. However, are there enough Southern Cross players left alive? No! Not able to get the kill in time. Supernova gets the second point. Raptor Ryan is making these rockets work. This game is nothing like I would have expected. It is now 2-2 with 16 minutes left. One of these teams is definitely going to score a point long before we hit the 25-minute mark here. Mark my words. That being said, I've been wrong before. Raptor Ryan grabbing those double rockets, playing defensive, gets taken out by Crashzone, riding that rail. I think the rail is pretty much the best place you can be against a Rocketeer on this map, but the worst place you can be for everyone else. It's a risky play, but Crashzone made it work. Too old for this now. Pushing into Southern Cross's base with their teammate, gets a kill on Rembrandt as they were trying to make an offensive play. Grabs that lower dash, gets a hit on Southern Cross's base, gets one more kill as well, but doesn't grab that top dash, is now playing in Southern Cross's basement, waiting for that bottom dash, waiting for the moment to strike as Supernova gets their own base as well, gets a hit on Southern Cross's button. Southern Cross goes for the counter, good counter by Crashzone, and takes out that player. Now they have to contend with one more Supernova player here. Another countdown for Supernova. Bill goes for the button hold. Oh, barely countering is Southern Cross, and barely clearing out their base as well. Still, more Supernova players streaming in. This is exactly what you want. You want to be pulling the focus of the enemy team towards you. Bill goes for a button hold. Barely countering is Dweller as there's no Raptor Ryan rockets left. Push getting a good double kill here. There's only 3 Southern Cross players left alive, but Push gets taken out. And now Supernova's great offensive has been pretty effectively countered. Bill is still making a play for the top rail, but I think he's going to get taken out by Rapscallion here. Yes, he is. Rapscallion grabbing that dash is now moving forward to B. Too old for this with the turnaround. Too old for this has been pretty good about finding the right moments to ride a rail forward and look backwards to take out the enemy that thinks you're not going to pay attention to them anymore. I like what I see here. The Southern Cross has control of Supernova's base as well. Rapscallion trying to follow up, and hopefully the rest of Southern Cross is going to get control of that B button in time. It looks like they have B, but they don't have their own base anymore. Supernova, as soon as they get B, might start to get a countdown, unless Southern Cross can clear their own base out. Countdown for Supernova is effectively countered. Too old for this setup on the button, not able to get the kills they need. Another countdown for Supernova. Mando with the hold. Raptor Ryan getting a kill. That secures Supernova their 3rd point. And they take the waterway. We are moving on to double control point, ladies and gentlemen. What an exciting turnaround. 2 points for Southern Cross into a 3-0 sweep for Supernova. We'll take a look at the scoreboards here. On Southern Cross, Rembrandt, top killing and top scoring, 19 kills. No, not top killing. Top scoring for sure, 7,300 points, but Raptor Ryan absolutely killing it for Supernova. 36 kills, 8,300 for Axion over on Southern Cross, the top killer for her team. And we will move right into a control point, starting on this server, moving back to Sydney for the second control point. The combined score of those is going to be the deciding factor in who is the winner for this Sprinter match. Whew. What a turnaround. Supernova really figured things out at the end there. This is going to be difficult. So, considering each team's performance on their respective servers, you can kind of expect that unless Southern Cross has something really locked in, Supernova will win this first control point. It's just a matter of how many points Southern Cross can rack up here before switching back to their home server, and whether that server swap is actually going to allow them to swap up their playstyles enough to recover quickly. Because whichever, assuming Supernova wins this first one, gets to 300 first, whichever point Southern Cross gets to is the point they need to prevent Supernova from getting to before Southern Cross gets to 300 score. Again, this is all assumptions. If Southern Cross takes this first one, then Supernova is in dire straits. They'd have to win a control point on a Sydney server here. But I think, based on Supernova's performance recently on that waterway, they will take this first map. It's just a matter of how much. Looks like both teams are in the center here. Just recharging both physically and mentally before we drop in. Control point number 1, Supernova versus Southern Cross on the US-based server.
2, 1.
Typically you'll see teams here will have one or maybe two primary dedicated button pushers. And everyone else on the team should be focused on the objective, to be sure, but you tend to see a couple star players as far as their ability to dash in and out of that button and hit it. Mando, playing very aggressively with those SMGs, gets way into the back line of Southern Cross while they're all respawning and hits them from behind. However, Southern Cross did have control of that button long enough to start to tie things up. It's way too early to really tell anything significant about this match, but that being said, Supernova is dominating the space pretty well. Rapscallion, though, set up with the double SMGs, takes out Supernova's double SMGs as well, and now it's Bill playing around the button, and Axion following up. Uses sprint just a little bit too much, but gets a kill to be able to hit that button. And now Southern Cross is behind. And pretty early lead for Supernova is still extending for them. Mando has been taken out, but Bill, very good about following up from where his teammate has fallen from. Rapscallion is now in the face of Supernova, is trying to camp that dash just a little bit and hit them from angles they're not expecting. Mando, meanwhile, with SMGs of their own, was expecting just that and gets control of the button back in Supernova's favor with a kill on Axion, is now dominating the right side, trying to prevent any sort of setup by Rapscallion, who does get the kill there. But Supernova is doing amazingly so far on this first control point. They are about twice as far ahead in the score as Southern Cross is, going to hit that 60-point mark far before Southern Cross, who is still stuck in the 30s and still contesting for this button, has not gotten a complete wipe of Supernova at any point in this map except for once at the very beginning. There's always, it seems like these Supernova players are nearly omnipresent around this button. Meanwhile, Southern Cross is coming in waves and crashing on the shore. That is the stern rock hold of Supernova. Dashing in and out. Every player on Supernova is ready to be focused on this objective. That's exactly what you want to see here. Rapscallion setting up in the backline, gets one kill there, hits the button, and tries to follow up. And now the Southern Cross players, realizing just how far behind they are, desperately trying to play this objective, but it's so difficult with the ping difference and with this respawning of players being so rapid. Supernova is completely dominating this space, and this objective not giving Southern Cross any room to breathe as they continue to extend their lead. Crash Zone, Rembrandt, getting control of that button once again, but there's still players like Raptor Ryan left alive with those rockets as well. They must have spent a very long time getting those double rockets. Hopefully they're going to use those effectively. Supernova having control of the button for now. So Raptor Ryan trying to set up in a sneaky position. Misses hitting that button because someone else in their team did. Runs out of dash, gets taken out. Too old for this now, dashing in and out with a button hold that survives for way too long. Axion finally getting the kill there, but Bill is now stealing dashes and health from these Southern Cross players and flanking them every which way, preventing Southern Cross from getting control of their own dash. If you put too much focus on these disruptors, you can really lose plenty of time on the objective. You don't need the dash. It's very helpful, can be very important in securing a win, but if you're already playing at such a huge disadvantage, you just have to switch gears and be ready to stay around this objective and move forward with only 3 dashes at a time. Too old for this. Very good at that button hold, winning plenty of time for his team, and considering how long players like Weller have to spend trying to kill Too Old for this when they're around that button, there's plenty of time for other Supernova players to then follow up and kill the player trying to take out Too Old for this. You really don't need to play for your life that much. You need to play for the time around the button, and Supernova is doing a wonderful job of that. Southern Cross still not quite even reaching the 100 mark until just right now. Supernova well past that mark. It's almost inevitable that they will win this one, but how? By how much? How far are they going to make it on this first match? Is Southern Cross going to be able to close the distance at all here? So far, not looking good. Mando set up in a tricky position, gets called out, gets taken out, but Raptor Ryan following up, trying to get the kills on players like Axion, who have been very good about dashing in and out of the objective if you can let her survive for just a little bit too long. Axion gets a hit on the button. Brief control for Southern Cross. Turns back into Supernova's favor. Push now. Doing their namesake, pushing forward, preventing Rapscallion from setting up with those SMGs. That was a very smart play. Supernova, assuming they're able to take out the rest of Southern Cross, which it looks like they are, is going to dominate this space for a while once again, as there's no SMGs to contest with Mando on those long sightlines. Until Rapscallion is able to set up with SMGs once again. Mando going on an absolute tear, takes out Rapscallion as well, is in Southern Cross's attic, pulling their attention away from the button, getting kill after kill after kill, is now grabbing that health, setting up in the back line. But this is what SMGs are good at. Almost getting another kill here, takes out Axion, is trying to clear that button out and prevent Southern Cross players from stealing Supernova's dash. Meanwhile, Southern Cross has control of this button. Mando, realizing this, makes their way to the objective, but is in the open for a little too long with no teammates to cover them. Southern Cross briefly gets that button back, but Supernova has recovered once again, passing the 200 mark a while ago, is at 222. Southern Cross just barely past 140 themselves, is way behind Supernova at this point in the map. It's going to have a very difficult time with recovering on map 2. They're going to have to close this distance much more if they want a solid chance at taking map 2, unless Sydney really makes that much of a difference for them. Rapscallion trying to make a play around the button and distract those Supernova players from making it to the objective, but takes just a little bit too long after getting ignored. I think that's one thing that's working out for Supernova very well. Is players like Mando are and Raptor Ryan seemingly are set as the killers. Of course, most teams have players like this where they don't focus on the objective as much, but all those other players on Supernova are very good about turning around and ignoring whatever players might be trying to disrupt them and pulling them away from whatever resources they might be trying to steal and make their way to the objective instead. And that is why Supernova has had control of this button for so long. Rapscallion getting kill after kill, but still the button was in control of Supernova for most of that time. That's kind of the difficulty here, is it might seem like going for kills is the right play, but sometimes dying over and over on the objective is how you get points. Southern Cross seemingly realizing that player after player after player gets sacrificed to the temple of point. Too old for this, holding that button prevents Rapscallion from getting a dash, and Mando takes them out. Good teamwork there and good hold there by Too Old for this. Southern Cross getting a little bit more score for themselves, but Supernova is at the 275 point mark, only 25 seconds of control left for them to win this first control point. Crash Zone gets a hit on the button there. Raptor Ryan now following up with Staples out of nowhere once again. Raptor Ryan with these pickups. I really like the variety, the use of heavy weapons. Now Supernova is reaching that point where it's all but inevitable that they're going to win. Southern Cross needs to play suicidally on the button for as much time as they possibly can, not expecting to win, but expecting to get something before Supernova reaches that 300 mark. Southern Cross at 198. That is the score we are looking for, folks. As we swap servers here, we will take a look at the scoreboards with Rembrandt top scoring for their team, 24 kills, 10,000 score as well, ridiculous numbers. Supernova, Bill Lumber, top scoring for their team, 8,300 score, 31 kills. We'll see how things play out in the second map, but this is going to be a difficult one for Southern Cross to take. Even as we swap to a more Aussie favorite server, they have to prevent Supernova from making it to 198. That is the score that Supernova has to get to win this map. If they get 199, it is over. Supernova will move on. Southern Cross will be left in the dust. Now we are in this second server here. As soon as all 5 players for each team are in the lobby, we should go ahead and start the second map here, which it looks like we're going to go ahead and do. No roster changes here. We will jump straight in to second control point on Sydney's server. Southern Cross vs Supernova control point round 2. Here we go.
Match starts in 3, 2, 1, go. Red team has captured the
Raptor Ryan making a play for Southern Cross's dash side as Supernova starts to get some early control of the button here, but get taken out. Southern Cross with the initial lead here.
Blue team has captured
Supernova following up still has some control of the button, it would seem, and a lot of button holding out of Supernova is actually eating up tons of time for Southern Cross. Push makes a play around the button, gets a kill on Weller as well. And Supernova's got a pretty killer setup here. Kill on Axion, kill on Crash Zone as well. Is desperately trying to make it to Southern Cross's attic, but Southern Cross just keeps streaming through there. Supernova giving a lot of focus on this objective here, and a lot of players attempting to hold the button, it would seem. Rapscallion is now set up in Supernova's backline with the double SMGs, but as we've seen many times before, Mando taking them out, the other SMGs taking them out, and now Supernova is set up around the button once again with an early lead. This is a much slighter lead than the previous one, but considering that Southern Cross needs to prevent them from getting a 199 score, this is not a good sign for Southern Cross this early in the match. Axion keeping control in Southern Cross's favor, gets a hit on the button, but gets taken out for taking just a little bit too long to do so, and now it's Weller getting a headshot there. Push taking them out, and now Push staying close to the button. That seems to be Supernova's MO. Stay close to the objective. Don't even worry about disrupting. Because of this ping difference that's in Southern Cross's favor, disrupting is not going to do as great things as it was on the previous server, and we can see Supernova is very having a lot of difficulty maintaining this lead. It is very slight here, but it is real. Southern Cross needs to switch things up in their style of playing around the objective and disrupting should they choose to do so if they want to be able to take this second control point here and get the win. So far things are not looking great. Weller makes a play around, but there was only one Southern Cross player on the objective, another one following up, but Supernova has been allowed to get control of that objective once again, and players like Bill Lombard are able to flank around. Southern Cross getting the objective. Bill flanking around, like I was saying, gets 2 kills there. Gets hit on the button, gets some more kills as well, and now teammates for Supernova flowing in. It seems like Supernova is starting to lock things in slowly but surely and grow their lead, even on Sydney's server here. Mando even the SMGs, even the main killer for a team whose role is to kill, can hit the objective, showing you good teamwork there. Southern Cross is set up here around the button, but most of them getting wiped. Weller still alive, one more teammate still alive, circling around the objective, trying not to go too far away. Gets a kill, gets taken out, but those are SMGs for Supernova dead. Southern Cross just barely able to start taking a lead with only about 100 seconds left until Supernova wins, as opposed to 200 seconds left for Southern Cross to win. Southern Cross needs to have this objective for more than twice as long as Supernova has at this point in the match. This early, they need to have the objective twice as long, and that is not a great sign for Southern Cross as Supernova starts to get the lead once again. Rapscallion is set up in the backline with those SMGs, trying to prevent Mando from disrupting their fellow players if they could. Looks like they took out Mando. A very important kill there, but Supernova has control of the objective once again, and Raptor Ryan gets a kill. Now Raptor Ryan is going to switch things up, knowing that Rapscallion is targeting their teammate. Is probably going to play close to the objective, but still be on the lookout for Rapscallion, for that main killer for Southern Cross. Supernova is continuing to grow their lead at 133 score, 134, 135. As the time continues to tick on, Southern Cross, their desperation is starting to show. They are continuing to flood in towards this objective, but they need to play just a little bit more together, considering how much Supernova has been able to dominate this space. And Supernova, meanwhile, considering the lead they are in, is in fact able to flow in one at a time, and players like Too Old for This are too good about holding that button steady and making Southern Cross players spend a little bit too much time trying to take them out. Meanwhile, the rest of Supernova is then able to follow up and get those kills, really putting a playing for your life into real practice there. Too Old constantly sacrificing themselves in order to allow their fellow players to get the kills around the objective. Southern Cross struggling to take that objective back, but is starting to make some sorts of gains. Axion following up on the button with one other teammate, tries to get the kill there, misses the button, gets a hit. Raptor Ryan now following up with shield SMGs. Now it seems like Supernova is trying to switch things up just a little bit, confuse Southern Cross, and see if they can grow their lead even further with this slight change in tactics, but we have not seen quite as many Supernova players consistently around the button as we have throughout the rest of this current map, and Southern Cross is starting to catch up slowly but surely. They might have a chance here if they really focus, but things are not looking good as Supernova only needs 30 more seconds of control in order to win, less than that even. As they start to reach the 180 mark, Southern Cross is desperately playing to this objective. Meanwhile, Supernova players are doing what they've done this entire time and holding that button, staying right up next to it for as long as possible, preventing Southern Cross from getting a hit and turning that hit into a consistent long hold. Southern Cross has played in and out just a little bit too much. Supernova has now reached the 190 mark. Unless that's an 8, that's a little bit difficult for me to see, but that's okay. Supernova is close to a victory here. Southern Cross desperately trying to keep control of this objective as long as possible, but they are not following up with Supernova holding that button, and Supernova reaches the 200 mark. We're still going to play to continue out this match, but all things considered, Supernova has won this Dash League Sprinter semi-final. Rapscallion now switching things up, following up with a rocket and shotgun, getting taken out by Push, who keeps track of where they are jumping to, and Southern Cross is trying to close up that lead for Supernova. But Mando is now able to set up with those SMGs. All these heavy weapons for Supernova are starting to really work out in their favor, and really confusing Southern Cross, who is probably used to playing against mostly pistol players a lot for maps like this. Supernova, 20-point lead currently, starting to get closed up by Southern Cross. Axion set up around the button. We've seen she's been very focused on this objective here and tries to take out players before they can get to it. Bill gets the kill on Axion. Learn from Supernova here is actually working out in their favor, I think, already this early on in the button holding. I think that was a good hold there, and now Southern Cross has pretty decent control of this objective as a result and is starting to take space, although it might be a little bit too much space that they're taking. The good button holding here, Southern Cross passing the 250 mark and also increasing their lead by a large margin. Supernova has been struggling to make it to this objective recently. What changed all of a sudden? Southern Cross doing amazingly here as they start to grow this lead and reach the 300 mark. Supernova now swapping things up, breaking that sudden hold and lead for Southern Cross. efficiently and quickly. Southern Cross getting control of the button once again. It's now neck and neck for this second control point. Rembrandt still playing around the button, playing for their life, trying to sprint in and get a hit. Rapscallion with the rockets, though, learning a thing or two from Raptor. Ryan gets a hit on the button, tries to take out any Supernova players playing around it, and Crashzone, meanwhile, holding it, giving plenty of time for their teammates to follow up. Full five players for Southern Cross around the button as they reach the 280 score mark. And still, Crashzone, button holding that button, forcing Supernova to contend with a player and shoot them over and over, who is behind cover before even attempting to hit the button, as they will be guaranteed not to get dashes leaves. Southern Cross plenty of time to get the kills they need to clear the objective and hold a push, and now we are in the last 5 seconds for Southern Cross to reach that 300 mark. Rapscallion set up around the button with rockets and shotgun, gets a hit on the button, and Southern Cross does take that second map with 300 score. However, Supernova reached the mark they needed to win overall. Supernova will be moving on. Top scoring for Southern Cross is Rembrandt. Once again, 1100 score, scoring even more than the previous map. Meanwhile, seems like Bill, 41 kills, 10,000 score, top scoring for their team, and, Rembrandt, 34 kills there for their team. Well done. That was an exciting match to watch. It's got highs and lows, it's got turnarounds every which way on every which map. Exactly what you want to be seeing out of a finals tournament. Everybody go ahead and leave a like, maybe even subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined. Hit the bell button, and don't forget to watch the other games going on this weekend. That being said, thank you to FireHorse for casting this match today. I've been Not Gollum, and we'll see you all in the next one.